So folks, really loving being here, such great sessions, such great discussions, such great topics, and so much insight. And it's always great when you're learning about an industry as it's evolving, and then benefit from another industry, technology, which itself is evolving, and how great it is to be able to have topics like the one that's coming up right now, and which is augmented reality and wearables, everything from cool clothes to other gadgets that we wear. And to talk about those is David Zakariaie of Glassic.
Alrighty, sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right. My name is David Zakariaie. I am the CEO of a company called Glassic. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a second. But I'm basically here to talk to you guys about Google Glass and how we're using it for market research. Before we begin, I have one question. Who here has not yet tried on Google Glass? Okay, there's no excuse. We have a booth outside with 10 of these. I can stand here all day, but you really won't understand what I'm saying until you try it on. So I beg you, please, if you didn't yesterday, please go to our booths today. It's the booth with a big Google sign next to it, and try this on, because it's not the same thing until you try it on. Alrighty. So let's begin. And the other thing I want to say before we start is, for the purposes of today's presentation, I need you to forget about all the problems that we have, forget about the NSA spying on us, forget about all of it. Just focus on the technology and the potential that it has. The social and political issues will solve themselves. So we're going to talk about a few things today. I'm going to tell you about myself and Glassic, who I am, what I do, what Glassic does. We're going to discuss Glass, its core functionality, and all the potential that it holds. We'll discuss Glass in market research and how we could use it to really discover what a consumer is touching, what they're feeling, and basically literally step into their shoes and get data on all 5 senses. And then we'll talk about our artificial intelligence platform for market research. So very briefly, who am I? I am the proud owner and driver of the Google Glass license plate car. I have been working with Google Glass for about 2.5 years now. And the more and more I worked with it, the more and more I realized that it doesn't have that much potential yet in the consumer world. So I started a company called Glassic, and our purpose is designing platforms and softwares in cooperation with Google to give this amazing device a place within the business world. And some of the main industries that we're working on right now are market research, aviation, transportation, and medicine. So before we begin, I'm going to start off by telling a little bit about Google Glass and what it is. There's all sorts of names and phrases that are associated with it. Some people call it a wearable computer. Others call it a hands-free smartphone. But ultimately, Google Glass is about getting technology to stop blocking us from experiencing life. We all love what technology does for us, but it's a bummer and a problem when it gets in the way. And that, oh, all right, guess I shouldn't go in front of it. And that is the problem that Google Glass is trying to solve. So Google Glass is very strong and light. It features a solid titanium band, and it's comprised of all the components you would find in a modern smartphone, paired with a heads-up display. The heads-up display is a very simple prism, a projector sending light. It bounces off, it reflects, and you're able to see the image. Not too complicated. So this is the home screen of Google Glass. From here, you simply say, OK, Glass, and you activate a world of commands. You can say, take a picture to take a picture. You can record what you see hands-free, even share what you see live with Google Hangouts. Directions appear right in front of you. You can speak to send a message. You can ask whatever is on your mind and translate your voice and now images to over 100 languages. It even gives you answers based on location without you having to ask for them. So the first thing we get to is why. What is the purpose of Google Glass? We have laptops, we have tablets, and we have this incredibly powerful machine in each of our phones. Why do we need another device? So the first reason is what I call connections and communications. Google Glass was made as a new way for us to interact with the virtual world without interfering with our physical lives. And one of the main ways we do this is by placing the display above our line of sight. It's close to our senses, but doesn't interfere with them. The best example is the picture of this baby. The baby looks into her mother's eyes, and the mother into her child's eyes. And she's able to take a picture of her child without technology getting in the way. Google Glass is a way for us to interact with technology naturally. So we took all this technology, and it was jam-packed into a single wearable device, and it was designed with the mindset that nobody would want to use it unless it's ridiculously light. Physically, it weighs less than most designers' sunglasses, and once again, I invite you to come and try it on to experience this for yourself. And visually, it features a transparent display and never shows you too much. It only shows what you need. And if glass wasn't super comfortable, why would you wear it? So it is. And it features a scalable design because we want it to work for everyone. As you can see here in this picture, and the glasses I'm wearing myself, they're attached to prescription frames. The second reason is what we call rapid information access. While it's not at this level yet, the eventual goal of Google Glass is to provide information before you even know you need it. As of right now, the way we seek knowledge, we usually come up with a question. We go on a website like Yahoo or Bing, we type in the question, it tells us the answer. The eventual goal of Google Glass is to give you that knowledge based on what you're doing and how you're interacting with the world before you even know you need it, which takes that entire process of gaining knowledge and it makes it instant. And the last reason is what I call a blank slate. And what do I mean by a blank slate? If we look at the 4 top smartphones that existed before the iPhone and we compare them with the iPhone, the iPhone had no new features. It was the exact same phone. But what was the main difference with the iPhone? A new way to interact with technology. It took a multi-million-dollar multi-touch platform and it put it in all our pockets for just a couple $100. The problem is, if you look at the mobile industry today, there is a very big lack of innovation. Every 6 months, and actually now every 2 or 3 months, a new device comes out. It's the exact same device, it's just maybe thinner or lighter. But there isn't really any new ways for us to work with technology and interact with technology. So Google Glass solves this problem, and it's the window of opportunity. It's a new chance and a new way for us to create experiences to interact with and work with technology. So with that said, I'm going to start discussing Google Glass for market research. And before I begin, I want to say one thing. As I go through it, and especially because it's artificial intelligence, a lot of people begin to think that we're trying to design software to replace you guys, the market researchers. That's not true. From our understanding of market research, and we are by no way market researchers, in the most simplest form, market research is the process of analyzing human behavior and human actions. Well, we think it's ridiculous to take the human away from that process. So what we want to do is not replace human market researchers, but give them a new and very powerful tool to help you with your jobs. And I also want to show you this excerpt I found in a textbook titled "The Current Use of Recording Devices." This is the official training guide for market research professionals from Qualtrics. And this was published before Google Glass was announced to the public. But this basically says if there was a device that had a pupillometric camera, a camera facing outside, and a cycle galvanometer, and it was able to make careful and detailed observations about behavior that couldn't be made otherwise, which Google Glass does all of these, then that is the perfect device for market research. And it just happens that Google Glass has all of those things and more. So I did my homework, and we discovered that there's 4 main steps to market research. You figure out what the research problem is, you make a plan, you execute the plan, you see what the findings are, and you make a decision. So we're focusing on the second step, which is gathering data. And we followed these 3 steps for our market research platform. We wanted to enhance the process of collecting data. We wanted to develop new methods of analyzing this data, and then create a more powerful tool to help companies make decisions based on that data. So first, let's talk about data collection. We analyzed and we spent months looking at all the current methods of market research, and we found one major flaw. The one flaw that we found is the conscious state of mind, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, the conscious state of mind is when we are aware of and responding to our surroundings. And when someone is conscious of an external factor, we alter our behavior based on this. So if we know we're being videotaped, we know we're being tracked, we're going to change our behavior because due to society, we feel that we're going to be judged. And so the conclusion that we came to is that the current problem with market research is the fact that the data that we are getting is flawed, and statistics are flawed because the behavior is not natural. So we set out with Google Glass to build software that can capture data that could not be caught before subconsciously. And so we devised that there are two parts to solving this. The first is Google Glass on its own, and the next is an artificial intelligence tool. So first, Google Glass alone. Google Glass is an excellent tool to use as a video camera. You can use it to capture natural behavior. It's in the moment. You can capture what would be missed. It's seamless, it's not in the way, and it doesn't distract. Sounds like the perfect tool for market research, right? Wrong. It's just a tool. Google Glass is a kick-ass device, but it's flawed, meaning that the video that we gain has no new meaning if it's just video on its own. So what we do is we pair it with our artificial intelligence, which I'm going to talk about next, to turn it into a very valuable market research device. So the first thing we had to do was change the point of view from the business to the consumer. So instead of analyzing data from the consumer's instead of analyzing data from the business's point of view, we need to analyze it from the consumer's point of view. So instead of doing surveys and interviews, asking the consumer questions, all we're going to do is step in their shoes. So we're able to get about 5 different types of data from the Google Glass with our software. We're able to get video that is facing outwards, and from that we're able to see what the person is doing and how they're doing it. There is a camera that is facing the eye, and we're able to do very detailed retina tracking and eye tracking. As a matter of fact, the eye tracking is more accurate than the Tobii glasses that cost 30 times the Google glasses cost. And then we also work with a team of doctors, and we found a link from the eye to the section of the brain that measures and controls emotions. And with that camera that is facing the eye, we're able to, with 96% accuracy, measure all emotions and their levels. So we're able to know what the person is doing. We know we know how the person is doing it. We know how the person is feeling when they're doing it. So the only thing left that we now need is, why are they doing it? And that's when our artificial intelligence comes in. And the artificial intelligence has 3 different places that it works: retail market research, advertising effectiveness, and interactive surveys. So I first want to talk about retail market research and show you a video example of how this works. We did this inside of a store, and so the video is going to show you a compilation of video taken from about 100 people that we sent inside of the store. And they were recording with Glass. And then we took all the video and all the eye tracking data, and we ran it through our artificial intelligence platform. The text that you will see below the video is what the artificial intelligence told us about this, about these videos. There's going to be a good amount of you that are going to think we're lying and BSing, that there's no way artificial intelligence can come up with that. And I welcome you to please come to our booth and see me after, and I will gladly show you the proof that it's real. So with that said, here's a video, and I'm going to narrate over it. This is the only part that we just wrote. And as you can tell, we did it in IKEA. We didn't do a good job of not showing that it's not IKEA. So the artificial intelligence figured out that out of these 150 people, 148 of them went and took these tools, and they started measuring things. So it was able to very easily figure out, okay, that means they need to measure things for their house. And because the people were wearing glass when they were in their homes, it was able to also figure out that it's because of the fact that they need a measure to make sure it fits with their house. It also noticed that 94% of the people that went in the store only went inside of these specific displays. And it was able to figure out it was because it was interactive, you can push the buttons, things like that. And as I'm sure many of you know, IKEA is already a very market research-centric design store. So this was just an additional tool. The consumer now goes and picks up this French press, and then he puts it back down. And what we can do at that point is ask a very quick question on the glass. Why did you put it back down? And the person can answer. Or we can say, if this was priced at this much instead, would you purchase it? And the person can say yes or no, and we could do things like that. The software also realized that all these different signs were placed at different heights. And it was able to tell the heights of every single person wearing the glass. So it was able to very strategically make the decision of which signs are at the correct heights, which signs are too low. And based off of that, IKEA adjusted the signs to make the cheaper products at a lower height and the more expensive products at a higher height as far as the prices. And of course, IKEA always tries to get you to buy food at the end. So we were able to analyze which signs are placed correctly based on the angles people are walking. And we were able to figure out, based on which signs people saw, did they actually end up buying food. And if people didn't end up buying food, we were also able to analyze why. Was it because they didn't see enough of the signs, or was it because the line was too long? And we were able to very easily figure that out. And that was an example of the signs being too high. We also found out that when they put these kiosks to get discounts, 94% of people actually ended up giving IKEA all their information. So they were, based on that, decided to put a lot more of these throughout the stores, because you guys always love to get our information. All right, so moving on. So that was retail market research. Advertising effectiveness works very much in the same way as we did with the signs and the advertisements and things like that. If we have someone that is walking in a store or driving and they see an advertisement, they see a billboard sign, we're able to tell you if they saw it. And if they saw it, was it just in their line of sight? Did they glance at it? Were they deeply concentrated in it? And then we're also able to tell you, were they excited by it? Were they disgusted by it? And we're actually able to figure out if that sign, not just if it's effective as far as people are seeing it, but how they're responding to it. Interactive surveys is another one that I'm very excited about. How do surveys traditionally work? Let's use the example of you buy a coffee machine. You buy a coffee machine, there's this little postcard-sized thing inside of it that no one ever fills out. And if you fill it out, let's be honest, a lot of people lie on them, just to mess with the data. So what we decided is that that one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. So what we did for interactive surveys is, on a coffee machine, we'll place some sort of QR code or some sort of tag on it. And for a period of 2 weeks, this consumer is wearing glass. And keep in mind, they do consent, but they don't know when these devices are capturing data, and they don't know what data is being captured. So they're consenting for us to capture any data we want, but they don't know what it is. So they can't alter their behavior because they don't know what's being captured and when it's being captured. So when they're interacting with this coffee machine, for a period of 2 or 3 weeks, we start recording and saving data based on how they're using it. You know, how often do they use it? What kind of setting are they using it in? Et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end of 2 weeks, we're able to very quickly ask them 2 or 3 questions on, why did you do this with it? How did you do this with it? Blah, blah, blah. And based off of that, the company is able to actually make a strategic decision about their next generation product based on how the consumer is actually using it, not based on a postcard that we lie on. So the next thing that we came up with was, well, we need a new method to analyze and interpret this data. And we call it Sentiment Analysis version 2, and I'll explain why. And the sentiment analysis is powered by our artificial intelligence and the Google Prediction API. I'm going to talk about the artificial intelligence next, but for those of you that don't know what the Google Prediction API is, it's the little snippet of code that makes a decision if an email that you received is good email or it should go in the junk mail. But so we were able to create a new iteration of that and give it a purpose for market research. So what we're able... So what we're able, the most high-tech presentations always have the most tech problems. So what we're able to do is figure out, based on all this video that we have, we put it through the artificial intelligence. And the way we created this artificial intelligence is by taking a team of market researchers, putting them inside of a room, and showing them all these videos and types of data that we captured. And we told them, please analyze this and tell us what this means. And then we had a team of psychologists also analyze it and tell us what it means as far as why they're doing it and how they're feeling about it. And what we did then is put a team of programmers to create artificial intelligence, and we are still working on it, to mimic to produce a result of what the market researcher would say and get the software to do that. So what we're able to do is the artificial intelligence takes these 100 people that we did a test on. It figures out where they all looked, what they all felt, and what they all saw, and it will automatically produce the 20 to 50-page market research report for you in English, and it will explain to you what it saw, what groups of people did what. So for example, if it knew that you had an advertisement campaign and you told it that I'm trying to attract 18 to 24-year-old women to come into my store based on this campaign, but it then figured out that no, you were actually attracting 30 to 35-year-old women in your store, and it also knows that you weren't selling the specific product you were trying to sell, it will make a decision that it's because your advertisement campaign is wrong. You're attracting the wrong group of people which aren't interested in your product, which is why you're not making any sales, which then allows them to change it. So essentially, these are the 7 traditional methods of market research, or some of them. I talked to you guys about how we're able to, with surveys, perform market research, and how we're able to do interactive surveys. Individual depth stuff and focus groups, we are able to very simply, if both people are wearing Google Glass, we can tell if they're lying or not, and we could actually tell what they're feeling. So it produces a better pool of data as well. And then, of course, at the end of the day, market research is so a business can make decisions to make more money. So what we, so our goal is to give you a lot better data to be able to make more strategic decisions. So that's the end of the market research section of my presentation. But on a different note, I want to say one other thing. There's a lot of negative headlines these days about Google Glass and what it does and what's the purpose of it, and it's a privacy problem and this and that. And because of that, I want to speak a little bit about the technology and our inspiration behind it. Within Google, we have an organization called Google X, and this is the laboratory where all sorts of crazy projects are produced. Google Glass, Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi hot air balloons, the self-driving car. And what powers and runs this organization is what we call the moonshot philosophy. And this philosophy goes back to the days of John F. Kennedy. And for those of you that don't know what a moonshot is, it's the combination of a huge problem, a radical solution, and the technology that makes this solution possible. In May of 1961, former US President JFK, he made an announcement that we, the United States, were going to land a man on the moon. And in his words, he said that these are extraordinary times and we face an extraordinary challenge. So it's not surprising that some people would have us stay where we are right now a little longer, to rest, to wait. If that sounds familiar, that's exactly what people are saying about Google Glass right now. But this nation of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them. This nation was created by those who move forward, and so will space. And after you hear those words from such a brilliant man, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel that I was around back then to witness this. Unfortunately, today, we face a lack of innovation. The mobile industry keeps creating the same iteration of products, And each time they do, we become more and more disconnected from the physical world, since we are in essence living life through a plastic brick that's sitting in our pocket. And unfortunately, the public perception of glass has been destroyed, and consumers are becoming less and less receptive to this device. Many people, and understandably so, have allowed media bias and traditional ways of thought to get in the way of the opportunities that such a device can provide. And it was John F. Kennedy himself that said whether these things become a force for ill or good solely depend on us. And while he was talking about expanding into space, this theory applies to every moonshot that we take. To us at Google, glass represents a new opportunity to create new experiences and methods to interact with the virtual world. And in a mobile world with no innovation, glass is this window of opportunity that we all need. The only thing left for us to do is conquer it and change the world. But most of us, including myself, ask a simple question: how? And this is why we run on the moonshot philosophy. John F. Kennedy, on that day in 1961, said that we're sending a man to the moon, although we have no idea how we're going to pull it off. But 8 years later, when we all, as one nation, landed on the moon, the NASA control computer had 1/500th the amount of computational power that we today find in cell phones and Google Glass. And if a nation with that small amount of computational power can do such an amazing thing, imagine what all of us can do with the technology that we have today. And so what we feel is that in that day of May of 1961, President Kennedy announced that we're sending a man to the moon. And on July 20th, 69, 8 years later, we accomplished our goal and we landed on the moon. And in June of 2012, Google Glass was announced and the wearable device phenomenon began. And once again, we have all been given the opportunity for a revolution that, like those before it, will not wait a little longer to rest and can definitely not be stopped. So the only thing that is left for us to ask is not why does Google Glass exist and what's the purpose of such a device, but how can we as individuals and how can we as contributing members of the human race use this device to change the world for the better through glass. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'm almost out of time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And that was an interesting topic. And what I find fascinating is how, in this day and age, even efforts to get to the moon are more likely to be privately funded or by countries who were not even on the map, much less likely to land on the moon in the next decade or so. So exciting times, and the role of technology is obviously a big thing there. So we shall see what happens. Any questions in the audience for David?
Hi, David. That was a great and interesting topic and talk. Is it possible to see a sample of the report produced by this information that's being collected through the Google Glass? Is there a place we can download that level of the information?
Yeah, absolutely. We would need to redact the information that is specific to the company that we did it for. But if you come to our booth, get my contact information or connect with us on LinkedIn, and I will more than happily send you this report. Absolutely. We're more than happy to.
Stephen Pritchard from Locately. Just curious, as you integrate more with market research, how do you foresee privacy issues arising, and how do you deal with things like going into a supermarket and having someone take a picture of a shelf set? I know a lot of retailers are not happy when they have customers coming in and taking pictures. So how do you foresee integrating that?
Yeah, I was actually waiting for that one. So our clients, as of now, in the example of IKEA, IKEA is the retailer, so there's no problem with us going in and videotaping. With other clients, it's their responsibility to get permission from the store to allow us to do this type of market research. Some ways that we've been able to get around it is we will partner up with the retailer as well, and we will allow them, to also use our market research to kind of help their store. The other thing is no video is actually saved in real time. The artificial intelligence is taking the video and extracting the data out of it. So the video is never saved to a hard drive or anywhere. Only the data we extract from it is. And we're working with, I forget the name of the organization, but the Ethics Organization for Market Research. We're working with them to make sure we comply with all privacy rules.
Hello. Hi, David, John F. Kennedy, Zakariaie. I have a question. If you take out the video viewing ability, could you not have all the functions of Google Glass in some other wearable device which is less obvious?
If I understood your question correctly, you're asking if we take out the video functionality of Glass, if it's comparable to other wearable devices? Yes. We could have all the other functions. We wouldn't, however, be able. I mean, we could figure out what the emotions are and what the person is looking at, but without video of what they're looking at, we have nothing to compare it to, and we also wouldn't be able to track where they are in the store because we're not using. Correct. Yeah. As of right now, the way we're doing it is exactly like that. When the camera is recording, a consumer has no idea. The glass works and functions like any other glass.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Great session, David.